When it comes to a clogged drain, this is as bad as it gets. But a year ago, I showed you guys this drain system on my property, and I got tons of comments saying that I'd better install a grate. Now, unfortunately, I didn't listen, and now a year later, this thing got completely plugged. If this was just a storm drain, it would certainly be an annoyance, but in fact, this is the lifeline that feeds a natural pond on my property. Water goes into this drain and is carried almost 1,000 feet to this pond. The pond's history is pretty unique and I don't know everything. The original owner built this thing around 25 years ago. Now I'm told it was just a small puddle back then, but he wanted to have it filled with water continuously. So unless you use something like a liner, you are never going to be able to accomplish that. But then he had a clever idea. Across the driveway there's always an overflow of water. Now it's not a legal type of stream, it's just a lot of runoff. So he installed this drain system to capture some of that runoff, keeping the pond filled up all the time. Now if you compare this pond to others you've seen on YouTube, this is a truly natural pond. There's no liners or plastics, but its Achilles heel is the fact that it loses water the same way a natural pond would. How was I going to get to the drain that is in the bottom of the cistern while water is rushing in? To make it worse, I also had no idea what the thing was clogged with, whether it was a rock or a type of branch, but I needed to get a better look. Now surprisingly, just a few feet away from the drain is a cleanout, so I kind of thought I was home free. I tried using this pressure washer line, but I could never get it to feed into the drain properly. I was also a bit concerned that I might dislodge something and have it go right back into the pipe. I had no idea why they never installed a grate, at least on the intake pipe. Now I've seen this cistern dry out once before, so I knew it had some type of a 3 or a 4-inch PVC pipe. There are no pumps or electric systems of any kind, but unfortunately without that flow of water, the pond was basically doomed. Initially I had hoped I could just clear the drain, so I made a series of tools using a piece of conduit, and none of them were able to really do anything. I needed to figure out a way that I could drain the water out of this cistern faster than the flow of water going into it. Now if you're wondering why I don't just stick my arm down there in the cistern, I've done that, but unfortunately it's almost 4 feet down, and you don't really know what you're grabbing. I just couldn't physically reach the pipe. Initially, I tried using some small electric pumps and they were totally unsuccessful, so I had to turn to this Honda trash pump. Now these things are perfect for any type of a disaster where you've got a ton of water that you've got to move quickly. So this has a 2-inch intake, and within just a few minutes I realized that I could reduce the flow of water enough to get to that drain on the bottom. But I still couldn't even see what was clogging that drain, but now that I could see the pipe, at least I had a chance. So I went ahead and started using that conduit tool that I had made, inserted it into the pipe repeatedly, and sadly, I think this clog was nothing more than a couple of sticks and some leaves, but the way they were in that pipe, it was completely sealing it off. This drain has years of neglect, meaning there's all sorts of silt, rocks, and sand on the bottom. Water is now flowing through the drain, which is fantastic, but unfortunately I'm also at a huge risk. If anything goes into that pipe now, I will undo all of the work I've done. I could have just inserted a strainer into that pipe, but there is a problem. That hole was designed for drain pipe, which you would not normally use with regular PVC fittings, and I also needed to make sure that I could service that thing in the future, because remember, I can't glue it in place, there's still water flowing in. I've got to be able to insert it securely, but be able to remove it in the future. What you're looking at here is a septic fitting, and it is tapered, so you insert it further into the pipe to get that secure fit, but you don't need to use any type of glue or screws, and it will stay in place. Next, I needed a simple strainer. I didn't want it too fine because I don't want it to clog up all the time, but now was the moment of truth. I needed to get this thing into that drain remotely. Now with this in the cistern, at this point I can breathe a little bit easier. Now I've still got one more step to the repair, but thanks to YouTube, let's fast forward now a month into the middle of summer to see the difference at the pond. The plants are doing well, the level is back up to the top of the rock, and as we look closer, there are all kinds of things going on. What I was really shocked about is take a look at the fish in this pond. I don't know if these are the parents, but if you look a little bit further, you can see tons of baby fish living in here. These guys have been busy, and I am not a fish expert, so maybe some of you can help me identify what these things might be. I'm not really sure they got here naturally, but they have definitely made this their home. I am going to be installing a trail cam down here. I can finally see what's going on. I have spotted some bears over here along with bobcats, so I'm certain I'm going to be able to capture some good stuff. Now to complete this repair and install a second guard, I'm going to put this grill on top of the drain. So to come up with an easier, affordable answer, I actually found this gas grill grate that would work pretty much perfectly, and I could just set it on top. And while it isn't strong enough to walk on, I am going to keep an eye out there for a better solution in the future. With this repair done, I was feeling pretty good. The system has continued to work for over a month later through a number of rainstorms. The water goes into that grate, flows down to the pond, and anything extra flows down the side of the mountain, and the system seems pretty well engineered for such a simple design. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What changes would you make to this design? Do you know what those fish are? I definitely would be interested in any feedback. If you stuck around in the video this long, I really appreciate it and hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Silver Symbol channel on YouTube for more videos coming up.